Hi everybody, it's Mel here and welcome back once again to my channel, Pebbles and Peach. Today we're back for another episode of the Van Life In series where I kind of let you guys know what van life was like in each of the different countries that we visited on our big trip around Europe. And today we are talking about van life in Belgium. So if you haven't seen the first episode of the series yet where I talk about what van life was like in the UK, I will link it below and it'll give you a little idea of what this is about. But in each of these episodes we're talking about certain categories like food, best places for food shopping, fuel prices, what wild camping was like, what campsites are priced like, and what I found to be the highlights and the negatives of van living in each of these different countries. Now, unlike the UK one where I had a lot to say on basically every category, in Belgium, we were not there for a super long amount of time. There is a reason for that, which I'll get into, but I will go through each of the categories and kind of say what I can or have to say on each of them. Some I'll have a bit more to say than the others, but we were only there for less than a week and it's not somewhere where I think I would want to van life for a huge amount of time anyway. Once we'd kind of seen the places we wanted to see, we were ready to kind of head on off and go north into Holland. But it's a weird one because one of the places that we visited was the highlight of probably the entire trip, as in like the whole trip around Europe. But the van life there was not the best experience. So even though we got the Eurotunnel from England into France, we didn't really dilly-dally in France. We seen Dunkirk and then we headed basically straight up into Belgium because we'd seen that Bruges was very close. It wasn't a long drive at all between Dunkirk and Bruges. So we basically headed straight for Bruges in Belgium. But before we dive into the video, don't forget to give the video a thumbs up, to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and to hit the little notification bell beside it too so you don't miss out on any future uploads. So the first things that I have to talk about is fuel. And I kind of give you guys a rough idea of what fuel prices were like in the UK. So between like £1.30, £1.40. Obviously now that we're in Europe, everything's going to be in euros. But fuel is generally a little bit cheaper in Europe. There's some exceptions than the UK. So for fuel in Belgium, you can kind of expect to pay in around the same, maybe slightly cheaper. So you're maybe talking like €1.30, €1.40, which obviously converts to a little bit cheaper than the UK. But I do remember we only really had to fuel up once and we did pay a little bit more. I think we paid like €1.4, €1.6 per litre. And it was kind of, I think it was at this little station like in the middle of a town, like it was unmanned, totally on its own, so there was probably a reason for it. So we ended up paying a little bit more than we had been used to, but it was fine. Like we weren't there for very long, we kind of just needed to fuel to get to see the places we needed to see and then get out of it. So on average it is kind of a little bit cheaper, but we found that we paid roughly the same as we had been in England. The other things I usually talk about, and I talked about like in the UK video, were shopping. We didn't really need to food shop, but we did go out to eat a good bit in Belgium, and it's because it is quite affordable to do so. There are so many little, like, if you've ever been to Holland before, you'll see like loads of little chip stands, and there's a lot of those in Belgium. So while necessarily we didn't probably eat the healthiest, we had a really good time there eating like little chips, and they're quite known for our fries if you're from America. We would have like chips and mayonnaise for dinner and like have a waffle for lunch, which like isn't the healthiest thing, but it was affordable. Like you're talking like €2 or €3 for those fries, kind of depending on your portion. And then Belgian waffles, they were massively ranged between like €3 to like €10, depending on kind of what you wanted to put on them and stuff like that. So it kind of depended where you were and how touristy you were wanting to go or how much stuff you were wanting to add. I love a good Belgian waffle, so I did go a little bit mad and nearly had one like every day that we were there, which is really bad. So it depends how you want to do it. You obviously still can go regular food shopping, but we had enough left over from the UK that we didn't really need to necessarily food shop. Now, wild camping in Belgium, this is a difficult one. It's hard to find a straight answer anywhere whether you're actually allowed to sleep in your vehicle or not in Belgium. And being that the Netherlands is quite hard on it and you can get huge fines there if you're caught, I feel like Belgium, it had a feel of it like when we were wild camping that you shouldn't really be doing it, and I can't explain why, but I just kind of got those vibes. So the first night we stayed in this really lovely little street with a canal up the side of it, and we kind of parked, and we seen there was another van parked between like two trees at the side of the canal. So we parked between another set of trees kind of just down from them, and we'd just been in to walk around Bruges, seen it in the evening because we arrived kind of like dinner time-ish and kind of did a little walk around there, and then went and parked outside of it, and we watched In Bruges, which was absolutely amazing. It's an absolutely great movie. If you guys haven't checked it out, if you're going to Bruges, try and watch it in Bruges because it's really cool. Obviously the next day, or like that night, we were like, oh, we were there, and then the next day we obviously seen it all again in the daylight. But like I said, Bruges was probably the highlight of my entire trip. I absolutely loved that place. It felt like its own little, like it had just this magic about it. Like we went in, and the bell tower had like a show going on, and you could hear all these lovely little bells, and like literally it just felt like, it's hard to describe because it was such an experience, but if you've been, you probably know what I'm talking about. I definitely, that is somewhere in Belgium. It's probably the only place that I'd revisit again. I want to go back at Christmas time and see it whenever it's all marketed up and see the square being all beautiful, all that kind of stuff. So you'll see in my highlights though that was definitely one of my highlights of the entire trip. But yeah, like I said, the wild camping, it just wasn't great. And then this is where we first kind of stumbled across this issue with green zones, and obviously they're being implemented now into England. We knew that they existed in Europe. We knew that France were quite heavy on it, so we had our Crit Air. We did not realise that you need separate badges for Belgium, for Holland, and for Germany. So that kind of screwed us up a bit over those next couple of countries. So before you leave, make sure you check that. We did have a bit of an issue with parking around Belgium. Like a lot of the towns, a lot of the cities, there's like these no parking signs everywhere with a big cross, and there is ways of getting around it, and I'm going to kind of explain that to you now. So the parking situation wasn't great. For Ghent, we ended up going to what's called a park and ride, which is a really handy service. This one in particular was actually free. We could go park our van in this car park, and then you hop on this little kind of like bus that this little guy goes back and forward between Ghent and the park and ride, and it's totally free service. So I mean, that was absolutely great. We had no problems there. I was a little bit like wary of leaving the van in that car park. Have a look at Park for Night if you guys have that app, and those car parks are generally on there anyway. And there's a couple of reviews where I think people had been broken into, so I mean I was a little nervous, but in the end it was fine. We left the van nearly the whole day and came back later on towards the evening, and it was totally fine. We debated trying to stay in that car park, but in the end thought it probably wasn't the best idea and tried to go a little more out of the way on that second night. But yeah, the first night we stayed just outside of Bruges. There's other campers, so that okay, but yeah, like compared to England, there was just this feeling of we shouldn't be here and we should try and really keep ourselves to ourselves. So campsites, we didn't actually go to any campsites. I think they were pretty pricey in Belgium, like the one just outside of Bruges. On Park for Night you'll find it. It was like 35 euros per night, and that's nearly triple our campsite budget. So while we were in Belgium, even though you probably should stay in campsites, we got away with wild camping, thankfully, and didn't get told to move on or get in trouble or get any fines or anything while we were there. Whenever I tried to research it, it's a little funny. The law isn't quite as clear cut about whether it's legal or illegal to sleep in your vehicle there. Like the Holland, they're pretty clear, like you don't do it, and we managed to get by without staying in campsites there. Let you guys know about that on that episode. Yeah, I'd say if you're doing it and you're trying to get away without campsites, not that I'm saying it's a good idea, I think if you can, you should probably go to campsites when you're in Belgium. Just try and keep out of the way and keep yourself to yourself. Arrive later on the day and leave in the morning just to stay on the safe side. That's kind of how we got about it. Like I said, going to Bruges, going to Ghent, you will not get parked inside those places. You will have to find alternative parking outside. We used Park for Night basically to find car parks a lot of the time to visit cities. So for Bruges, we parked right outside of it and then kind of walked 10 minutes to get in. And then for Ghent, like I said, we used the Park and Ride. Now, Belgium just isn't known in the same way as Holland. They're just not known for like nature and camping, and wild camping is actually illegal. I know that much. It's just because there's nowhere really for it. Everything's quite urbanized, or there's cities or towns, like they're quite populated places. So the van life experience, like as opposed to places like Germany and Switzerland and Spain, like it's totally different experience, and it's hard to kind of keep yourself out of the way because there's always something around the corner or somebody around the corner or somebody there. Campsites, like I said, are more expensive, but if you can do it by campsite, I'd probably try to. Now, finding showers, if you're not staying at campsites as we did, It was actually okay. We found a swimming pool, or swimming bath, they tend to call it in a lot of Europe. And even though there was a language barrier, we managed to kind of communicate to the guy that we just wanted to go for a swim. Like I said in my previous videos, a lot of times we would find leisure centre spots, shower down, go for a swim, and then get a proper shower afterwards. And the one that we found was very communal, which is a bit of a problem. Like, we still went in, went for a bit of a swim. There's a couple of people trying to kind of talk to us, but it was, like I said, there's a bit of a barrier there. And the shower that we got, I ended up like keeping my swimsuit on, and we had to kind of just shower around it because, to be fair, when we were there, like, it was only us two, but it was kind of like at the back of the pool, and other people had to kind of go through it and come out of it to get in and out of the pool. So we still managed to get showered, soap, water, all that kind of thing, and just like wash down through my swimsuit and then dry off like in the changing room afterwards. But if you're going to go swimming in Belgium, like, they're quite strict on like no footwear near the pool area at all. Like, you have to remove your shoes as soon as you basically pay. You go into this separate little locker area, and that's kind of where your shoes go, and then you go through and there's another locker area where you can put your clothing and get changed and get ready and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, you make sure that you have a proper swimsuit, and like, yeah, they're quite strict on that kind of thing. But like I said, we got by fine. We got a shower and it was affordable. I don't think we paid more than like €5. I think it was much cheaper than that actually. But getting showered was okay. We only had to get, because we were only there for a couple of days, we only had to get showered like once, and the rest of the time we got by just like washing in the van. So moving on to the highlights. Obviously the highlights definitely for me were Bruges. That place was incredible, magical, wonderful. Like I said, it was quite affordable to go out to eat. Obviously you will get expensive places if you want to go to like the 5-star luxury places, but if you're happy enough with just like street food and enjoying like the atmosphere of the place, like, it's quite affordable. Of course, got some Belgian chocolates, got some truffles, got some waffles. We went to see the blood of Christ, or supposedly the blood of Christ is in this little church, but the blood of Christ seems to appear again and again and again in multiple places. We're in Europe, so I don't know, but we went there anyway just because obviously it is a sightseeing thing, so we went to see that. And we seen the bell tower. We stayed the second night for a proper bell tower show and watched a lot of it. It is free and open. You can kind of just walk in, sit down and enjoy it. Like, that was really, really magical for me. Like, I absolutely loved it. I remember just sitting there and like knowing how amazing it was, and just looking around and just being like, I want to soak in everything. I want to soak in how I feel, what this looks like. It was dark and beautiful, and like, it was just amazing. So I definitely recommend, if you go there, to go around in the evening and just really soak up that nice little like buzz and atmosphere that the place has. And I really, really enjoyed that, and I want to go back there again in winter for like the Christmas markets and stuff like that. It'll be beautiful. The second place we visited was Ghent, which obviously, like I said, we got like a parking ride into Ghent. Ghent again was beautiful in a different way. It had a different feel, more of like a bigger city vibe feel. Highlights for me in Ghent were like the graffiti street. I love graffiti and street art, and that was the first place that we had visited on our trip where there was such a big amount of it down the street for you to see. Didn't really get that again until Valencia, where it was kind of like that on a bigger scale, but it was absolutely beautiful. And there was like loads of old buildings and castles. We visited like a little castle, and cathedral there was massive, and there's a big canal. And yeah, Ghent was quite nice. The downsides of being in Belgium and van life in Belgium were, like I said, the parking, the driving. We went to drive into Brussels on our last day there, and we were kind of gonna go stay there for a day or two and visit around, but well, we didn't realize that you need to have like, if you're going into Brussels in like a vehicle not registered there, you have to kind of either have that sticker or have like, you can get like a day pass online, and we didn't realize that. And we drove in and like, it was chaotic, like absolutely crazy. Cars everywhere, people pulling out in front of you, and like Aaron and I both were like nearly pulling our hair out, like this is absolutely crazy. And we just looked at each other and we're like, let's just get out of here, like don't care. Like, and I know that's probably not the best way to view it, but already like we were finding it quite hard on Park for Night to find good camp spots. There's nothing really close to the city for wild camping. Places that were there weren't great. A lot of people have been told to move on, had trouble, people drinking. Like, it's a big city, like Brussels is a massive city, and it feels like that as soon as you hit it, and I wasn't fussed on staying there. I know there's beautiful buildings, beautiful architecture, beautiful art, beautiful food, and like great things around that place. Because of that experience of just feeling like overwhelmed there, like I'm not really a big city person. I'm not gonna lie, like even whenever I go to Belfast, which is really, really close to me, I start to feel like claustrophobic, and it's a small city in relation to most of the other cities in Europe. I'm not a big city person. Yes, I like to visit and like see the important sites and see those things, but for me I find them quite overwhelming, and Aaron definitely did as he was like driving through it. So we decided to just get out of there, and that's basically when we headed and made a beeline for Holland. I think we headed pretty much straight for Rotterdam, and yeah, that was kind of our experience summed up of Belgium, of van life in Belgium. But like I said, you'll spend a lot of the time, if you're trying to get into specific places and specific areas, you'll definitely be relying a lot on public transport. Thankfully they do have things like those park and rides available, so check them out if you're heading to a lot of those different countries. Like you'll find them in Belgium, in Holland, in Germany, and a lot of those countries have those little park and ride facilities. In some cases you will pay a couple of euro to get the bus. Some cases like Ghent, it was totally free. But yeah, you'll find a lot of your time is spent outside and then trying to get to the places that you'd like to see. Like I said though, despite it seeming like it was a negative experience, like it definitely wasn't. Bruges was the highlight for me of my entire trip, and well, one of them anyway. I have different kind of highlights, like there is obviously some more nature spots that were definitely up there for me, but just that experience and that magical feeling and that feeling of being in a fairy tale, like they say in the movie, was very much present there. So yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Don't forget to give the video a thumbs up, to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on any future videos. And if you have any comments or questions or queries, obviously leave them in the comment section down below. And thank you guys so much for watching if you made it this far in the video, and I'll see you on the next upload. Bye guys.
I'll raise a glass to you, and you'll raise a glass to me. And when they're half full, we'll top them up with whiskey.